We got a lot to cover.
Visitors today? A lot to cover?
Minutes?
Okay, so let's do a quick review of the minutes. We have emailed to us prior to the meeting. We have the minutes from our last meeting, December 1st. So let's just take a moment and do a quick read. If there's anything that we need to modify, let's modify it.
Just a quick question. How detailed do we go on the minutes? Because there was a deep dive discussion about how we spend the lowest part of the state for spending money on students. And I only see an overall on page 2 at the bottom by Dr. Price.
I mean, I don't know the.
I don't remember. How deep do we go?
In front of me, but the materials that came out are part of the record, so
Okay.
I would say that the general
It's from
idea is
what
probably
we
enough.
spoke. Okay.
Right.
That's what I'm asking. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So you were successful, Angela, in getting the police department for all of our needs?
Yeah.
I tried.
I'm sure you did. So Angela's meeting schedule pretty solid then, going forward?
Well, I put it in your package.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I noticed it was in the, it's in the minutes too, so.
Well, March 1st, we can't have a meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
because-
Right.
The only exception.
So the venue is sort of written in stone?
Right. Yeah. So now Angela went ahead and got all the reservations, so we're all set.
It's tight now, only
Right.
because, we can't use, town hall, and
Yeah.
everyone's scrambling.
Do we have any motions?
Move to adopt the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So moved. So we have Dr. Price and Mr. Mealy come up first, and then we'll move right along. Welcome back.
Thanks for having us. As Jim's passing that, I did want to follow up on one thing I was asked last time I was with you on the 1st. You asked how widely I had publicized the Boston Magazine ranking analysis that I had done. And it does turn out that I hadn't done it. I thought I'd done it in a newsletter, and I actually had not yet. I will let you know that I'm about to publish an entry report that will be published Friday or early next week. It will be going to all families within North Andover and will be available on our website. And I actually chose to take a good chunk of that entry report and share the Boston Globe analysis somewhat based on our conversation. So it's part of the entry reports is how do we rank, and I talk a lot about the Boston Globe analysis. So I will make sure you guys are given a copy. I will get sent an electronic copy of that, but it will go to all 5,000 families, and I'll have it in there. So just wanted to follow up that was a great suggestion, so I took it.
And when you say families, do you mean people with kids in school and
Yeah,
without?
it will only go to the kids in the school, because that's my mailing list. That doesn't mean that it won't be accessible. It'll be accessible on my website, on the North Andover Public Schools website, and I'll tweet it out. because I'm pretty active on Twitter. So there'll be lots of ways to get it, but it will only be sent directly to email boxes of people who have kids in North Andover Public Schools.
So I have two things tonight. I think it was Karen had asked at the last meeting when I had talked about that we have done things over the years to try to decrease the cost for special education, particularly out-of-district tuition. So the first sheet that the top sheet of what I've passed out shows over the last 3 years those things that we have been able to do within the North Andover School District to keep students in district. And the way I have this shown is if you start at the bottom in FY14, we had introduced what's called the TOP program for those students who we have until the age of 22. It gives them vocational opportunities. It's a shared initiative we have with Andover, and you can see that's been very successful. It costs us, because it's a shared cost in FY14, $104,000, and allowed us to avoid $455,000 in tuition for a total avoidance of $351,000. That was just the one program. Some of the programs, and you'll see middle school and high school, we didn't have programs at that time, but we were working on what we call continuum of services, where we have students that we can service in the elementary, but then we lose them when they get to middle school or high school because we didn't have the programs. So we've been putting those in place as well, and you can see that that's been effective. You can see in FY15 when we put them in place, we were able to keep 5 students in district at the middle school level and an additional student at the high school. The other impact that's been happening at the high school is our Night Academy, our alternative program, has also allowed us, with just adding a little bit to the total cost of that program, to provide the services we need to keep students in district rather than having them going out as well. So it's been very successful. You can see it's been $1.2 million, almost $1.3, and then $1.5 million for FY16. So we have been working a lot, and we continue to do so.
Yeah, this really came out of the Walker Report, which was done a number of years ago, and this idea of continuum of service, that's what Walker normally recommends. And we've continued to do this. I will also say, as you will see in our budget proposal for next year, we're actually even recommending an increase at the elementary level. So it's not done, and some of these programs need to be expanded and some of them need to be strengthened, but we have really moved in that direction.
Great. So this is a good schedule, really like it, but I was wondering, Jim, these are the kids that we kept successfully in our program?
Correct.
It'd be interesting is to have a similar table when we hear about those kids that we were not able to keep in our program, because therefore you could say, here's my total population, and this is what we're able to do relative to keeping them in versus not keeping them in, kind of thing.
Yeah, the thing I'm sensitive about, I mean, we have that list, and that's how we determine what our total cost is. The tough part is making sure that you preserve privacy. And any document that you produce, people can discern with just a little information who that is. So you'll notice in here, I didn't list the individual programs other than the top program. I just put the level so that people can't discern who it might be.
So the one push I would have on that is students for out of district. Again, I think I talked about this a little bit. There's some kids for whom out of district is going to happen when they're born. And, you know, we can spend a lot of time talking about that, but that's just the nature of what it is. And we're getting a special education consultant to come in and help us look. For me, it's really about the 10 to 15 to 20, and I don't know what the number is yet because we're really looking at it, of kids that actually could have stayed in district and went out. So it's not about all. It's about kind of, you know, I think of the continuum, students who are going to be out of district and students who are going to stay in our district no matter what. It's really somewhere, where is that middle continuum? Because to spend time talking about the $200,000 placements at New England Medical Center is just not worth our time, because every school district is dealing with that, and no matter what you do, that's going to be the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I guess it's more of an analytical perspective of saying, hey, this is our success rate, and this is how we've been able to pull kids back into. I agree, we're not going to get 100%.
Right.
It's that zone I'm looking for, being able to be successful, try to pull as many back into North Andover as possible.
And we should have, I mean, I know that this doesn't help your budget timeline, but as I will also be presenting in my budget next month, I'm kind of reserving the right to really bring some special education reorganization forward based on when the consultant gets done, which won't be till April. I don't want to rush to doing this, but I really want to spend the time studying it this year, and that anything we did in terms of budget moving forward for next year would have to be cost neutral.
Yep. Right.
And even during the year, right at this moment, we are working on
Today, we were
putting in
working
a
on
program that will allow us to bring a student or two back in.
Okay. Sure.
So the second part of that I have is just the kind of monthly update of where we are with regards to particularly the out-of-district tuition. So if you look at this, I've highlighted December. Right now we are projecting to be negative 77,260. I think it was Jennifer had asked if I could predict at that time what I thought we would finish for the year. I said about 150. We're still projecting that to be the number. In talking to our special education director, she indicated that in just about any year, most of the activity takes place around up to this point, and then we'll get some others, and you'll see on our list here there are still some pending ones, but we're still projecting for the year to be about 150. So I've just listed, we added a teaching assistant, that's what the TA is, at the high school. We had one that we needed at Franklin, but we were able to reassign somebody from another school instead of having to hire that position, and then we had to increase the speech by 0.2 because of caseload. And then all of the others are in the red. Those are people, additional expenses. In the black show, if we actually reduce cost because a student moves out or we're able to bring them back in district. I think on the back page, that's what the second one to the top is. We had a student that we were able to bring back in. We would prefer definitely to have them in district, not just for the savings, but we believe it's better education for the student as well. And so we had started, if you recall, with $344,000 as kind of our contingency. The additional cost now total $394. So we're at remaining. We're at a deficit of 77, which we would be looking for the stabilization fund to cover.
So Jim, I don't know if you want to talk about it, but anyways, the contingency was that just that? Is there also a budget, or is this the budget for?
What we do is when we just finished again for this year's budget process, we take that list you were just referring to of all of our students, what they're going to have for tuition next year. We add that up, and then we have a budgeted number. So last year when we did that, we budgeted in for out-of-district tuition. We were able to budget $344,000 more than that showed at that time.
And that was your contingency? Okay.
Exactly.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Still wasn't enough.
Great.
And as you can imagine, we're budgeting now for next year, and the volatility on either direction is challenging. So that's why, it can go up and down. Some of these placements, we have some as high as $300,000, and that family moves out of town, then you have that. So it's just volatile. I'm learning this now for the first time, really getting into the numbers, and you make your best guess and you build in a contingency,
Right.
and you try to do your best.
Is there any trend over the last 5 years? I know we know it's going up, but there's any stable trend whatsoever?
Yeah, up until last year, there had been that it was increasing between 5 and 10% a year.
Yeah.
But prior to that, 4 or 5 years ago, it actually dropped for a year, which was amazing.
Right.
And then last year, we all know it went up by 25%. We do find that we're not alone. When we go to conferences, all the other districts are saying the same thing. Last year was worse than other years for whatever reason. And it is funny, not funny, but we hear a lot that people think that North Andover is getting,
I was wondering, are we tracking more than other towns?
people, but we're not, because every
Everyone
town
says
thinks
that.
the same thing,
Okay.
that they're
They're
getting
like, are we
more
doing something
than
to-
everybody else.
So where are they all going?
Yeah, exactly. And one question, where are they coming from? And it's other states, other countries?
Well, there is no doubt that nationwide, Massachusetts is more progressive around supporting students with significant disabilities. And families, I know of families in my previous work that moved literally from Texas, from Colorado to Massachusetts, so that their kids could have a better experience. That's the reality.
Right, so
but in
state to
terms of
state, we are
Massachusetts,
attracting, but not-
every town is saying, oh, they're all moving into our town.
Okay.
One other thing that was discussed the last time I was here was that we are somewhat in the minority with regards to our use of circuit breaker. And just a quick reminder, circuit breaker, if we have $5.5 million in expenses, a certain percentage of those are going to be eligible for reimbursement from the state the following year. So that's $1.7 million for us this year, and it will probably be about the same next year. But what a lot of towns have been able to do is that it is a true reimbursement for them, and it's not part of their budget. Unfortunately for us, it's part of our budget. We budget, if we've got $5.5 million in expenses next year, we're going to do $4 million in the budget and $1.7 million in expected circuit breaker funds. So I mentioned last time, it would be great if we could move in that direction so that that was our contingency, that circuit breaker money coming in the following year. So I'm continuing to work on a model that could help us get there, and as I develop it, I'll certainly share it with you, and we've talked about it with the town manager, and we'll see what we can do in that regard as well.
And the reality is that it would take many years to do that, right? Because you can't move 1.7 in a year, right? So it would have to be a kind of multi-year kind of, it would compound each year, and it would eventually get us there, but it would be a multi-year process. But the kind of our feeling is if we, and I think I don't want to speak for Andrew Mailer, but the idea is if we can get the snowball rolling, maybe it would get to the bottom of the hill eventually.
Right.
But it's not going to get there in a short period of time.
And the only way it works is from both sides. It's not just the funding side, it's the cost side as well, and we'll continue to work on that.
So this is what the modeling is, a very detailed, elongated process.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the details of which, when you get it worked out, you'll at some point share with us,
absolutely.
Obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
And it's going to have to be sort of creative and out of the box.
Yeah. Good.
So I just wanted to recap one point. I think this is great. But so what we do is we say, so I just wanted to contrast what we do now versus what we could do if we had the circuit breaker as a contingency. What we do right now, if we think our, just to use even numbers, if we thought our total special education spend was going to be $5 million, and we're going to get, we would say, and we're going to get $1.5 million from the circuit breaker, we would put 3.2 in, and that would be in our base proposal, and then we'd count on the money from the state for the rest.
Yes.
Combine the two.
Right.
Correct.
In an ideal world, we'd say, we'd put $5 million in, and then whatever came from the state was, was kind of there for, okay.
For contingency,
That makes sense.
exactly.
And that's what that's what.
And the challenge is once you've done that for 1 year, you've now set your course for every future year.
Absolutely. It's a big shift.
Right? So kind of, and again, when we present our budget, we'll talk about how we're trying not to do that in some other areas again.
Right.
But once it's done, undoing it is incredibly, takes some
Right.
time.
It's going to take some time, many different budget cycles to get there.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
I mean,
What's in the special ed? Did we fund that? How much was it?
We did.
It was a total of $750,000, but it can
Yes.
be accessed in increments.
Okay.
Is there a possibility that you get actually more from the state than what you need as a contingency? And if so, what do you do with it?
No, the circuit breaker reimbursement, I mean, Chapter 70, which goes to the cherry sheet, could be more than anticipated, but that goes to the municipal bottom line and would become free cash, I believe. But circuit breaker funds is a true reimbursement. You submit your expenses from the previous year, and then a percentage of that is reimbursed. And you know what that's going to be because you have to submit the expenses. The only question that comes up every year is originally the intent was for it to be reimbursed at 75% of eligible expenses. And the first year was the only year that they actually did 75%. It's been as low as 40%, which was
There's no
devastating
money?
for us. What's that?
Because there's no money at the state?
Because
State voted to
right.
make it 40%.
And it's always kind
I know.
of this trade-off It was, though, in those years, we were getting SFSF funding and ARA funding, and it kind of made up the
Recovery
difference.
Act funding.
And then when that went away, suddenly circuit breaker was back up into the 60s and 70%. This year, it's at 70%, and they've been very good about predicting what percentage they were going to be able to fund.
They tell you way in advance of a budget
Exactly.
season. Okay.
Right.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah, but this year they said, it's going to be fully funded, which meant 70%, not 75%. So fully funded at the amount we told you it was going to be, but
Yeah.
that isn't fully funded.
Exactly.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Great. No, this is great. I mean, I think this is a great breakdown. We know exactly where we are. That's perfect. It's very transparent and predictable, and it's great. We thank you very much for
Okay.
All right.
coming.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you.
Okay.
You're thinking it's going to be 150,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, yep. Eric, whenever.
150,000 for the stabilization?
Yeah.
Hand on a couple things.
I just want to clarify, though, it may not, if
May
Andrew's
not.
got some
Yeah.
other places to find money.
You can try to save
That's the
some of
last
that.
resort.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because right now, I have to say that school committee, the school budget's pretty tight.
Mm.
How are you? I can even share. Don't know that. Great. Thanks.
Here, we can share.
Good enough.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Eric, thank you very much for agreeing to come off cycle to introduce yourself and talk to the committee a little bit.
Sure.
I think there's always a great deal of interest among the committee members about the economic development of the town and the climate and anything that the town. We're always interested to hear what the town is doing and how we're trying to attract new businesses that will help our tax base. So we really appreciate you coming, and we don't have a lot of formal questions. Why don't you start by sort of talking about what you found and introducing yourself a little bit, and then we can have questions after that. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. It's good to be here. I think the last time I was before the committee, I had been hired for about 2 weeks.
Right.
And it was my turn to come in with the budget. So Andrew was great. He stood in for me because you knew far more about my budget than I did at that point. And so after almost a year, I probably still do. A couple handouts, and I'll get into them just for reference, but I figured I'd start out with a brief overview about the Community and Economic Development Division. This is the first year I was brought on. They added the term economic development, and Andrew the town manager had started some changes in the division, focusing certain things, and it's been a little slow getting that going, and I'll get into that maybe in a minute, but we are pursuing that, and we'll do so much more aggressively in 2016. The organizational chart, for those who are unfamiliar with the division, you'll see the departments under the division are Building, Conservation, Health, Planning, Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Stevens Estate, all of which play a critical role in economic development and certainly community development, which we see is going hand in hand. So I know I'm here for economic development, but it's critical for us that the community development side, which is and things like the school department, we're lucky to have a great school department, and the superintendent and I have met, which helps us in promoting the town. Clearly, under these departments, there's a lot of regulatory function that the office handles. The building code, plumbing code, electrical code, health code, conservation, local and the state regulations. Pretty much everything comes through this office. And we issue the various permits and the inspections. So we deal very closely with residents and very closely with businesses. In addition to this, and this is where I'm trying to focus, because the staff's great, they handle those functions well. A great time of the office is really dealing when residents come in, or particular businesses or developers kind of come in with feelers. Gee, I'm looking to locate to the town. What's the process? So we lay out the process for them. We work with them. We try and work within, certainly, the code's the code, the bylaw's the bylaw, and we respect that. But certainly try and get them through that process. And we're always looking at ways of streamlining that process. Really working to put their ideas, get them focused, and then seeing if we can accomplish them. As you can imagine, I report to the town manager. So he and I work very closely in setting kind of the agenda and moving forward with that. Things where we can do. Economic development, again, it's relying on factors, some of which we can control, some we can't, and we focus on the ones we can, obviously. Part of that is managing when you manage that regulatory process and the infrastructure. To attracting business, we're constantly looking at ways to make our bylaws or just our process simpler, more effective. Businesses love that in particular. One-stop shopping, things like that. And I think we do a pretty good job. I'd like to take the opportunity to praise the staff and the boards. One thing that's not on this, I forgot to mention clearly, the Zoning Board of Appeals is on there, but Planning Board, Conservation Commission, and the Board of Health, all of which are autonomous, but we handle the interaction between the engineers or whomever and dealing with that and setting up the agenda for their meetings. Some of the things we're working on, and we will move on this, I think, pretty aggressively in 16. You'll probably see that reflected in some of the budget discussion that we will have as well. We are looking to revisit the master plan in town. Master plan is a little dated, and frankly, master plans should always be looked at on a continuing basis anyway. But our purpose there is to make sure, it's set. We set the vision where we want to go, based on not on today's economy, but tomorrow's economy, and preserving the character that we want to preserve, obviously, in North Andover. So that comes through this office as well. We will work certainly closely with the business community, residents, all the boards in town, and in doing that. That's a pretty involved process. One of the first things we're going to do in kicking that off of the first phase is recodifying the zoning bylaws, which over the years things get added on, and just how one section interacts with the next section could be clearer. So recodifying isn't changing the bylaw, it's really just kind of streamlining it and making it simpler for everyone to use, not just the board members who have the history with it and then no. So that should be hopefully starting pretty aggressively pretty soon, and that would be the first step in the master plan, revisiting the master plan. We will also institute online permitting. We intend to be doing that certainly in the first couple months of the year, closer to the second month. We will start, I think, somewhat small, making sure we'll start with some of the easier ones, plumbing and electrical. We think this is great. Contractors in particular love it, because once they're in the system, all their data is kind of in there, then they just come in and it pops up. Shout out to Jean Enright and the assistant director. She's doing a great job with all that. setting that up, and we're in the process of that. But, by the end of the year, I don't know how much of it, but certainly much more building permits, the health permits. Some of these are tougher to get, on an online process, and some towns have it, some don't. Some work better than others, but I think we have a pretty good one. Like to Chris McClure, again, the IT director, did a great job as well setting that up.
Say, Eric, like the easy stuff, like electrician needs to do a panel change. You would just, go online now and just not have to.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll do stuff ahead, then they'll go back and pull the permit because
Right.
it's an emergency or something's going on. But-
That's always amazing to me. You can do the work and then pull the permit. And
Well,
you just
I
can't
can
use the work
understand some of the things that happen
Right,
too.
but
yeah.
that's a good example. There's basically a state form. It's when you look at it, there's a lot of questions on it.
Mhm.
So hopefully the way the system works is, you answer one question, and depending on what that answer is, it'll trigger off. You're not going to see some of that anymore popping up.
You see based on
You only see with how you answer.
Good.
So yeah, we're excited about that. So
Scheduling with inspections and stuff like that too.
yeah, I know, and I don't know if we do that through Viewpoint is the system we're going to use. Or people forms is one thing that Chris has set up. It's throughout the town-wide departments. But yes, so that we can actually more readily kind of chronicle where we've been, and then we can pull up reports real quick, just because you can put data entry in the field with some of these systems and all that. So we're all moving toward that. My goal is to get as much of the permits online. Again, Gene's working on
Expedite
forms. Yeah, it should help. So that's one thing we will be doing. I say we're going to implement an outreach plan. It's going to be a little more formal. We do a lot of outreaching, and I'll get into that, and actually a lot of interaction, but I want a little more consistent, and certainly much more consistent, and I need to do this, is on me, reaching out to the business owners in town, making sure, hey, everything okay? What's coming down the road? You got any concerns? Things like that. But trying to constantly getting before as many existing businesses in addition to trying to attract new ones, but helping them, again, flourish and expand if they need to. Part of that effort is also getting out regionally. We think the Merrimack Valley as a region is not well known outside the region. I think people say, yeah, Merrimack Valley, what's that? I don't know if we've all gotten it. I would do work south of Boston. Someone would say, we're from North Andover, and say, oh, the North Shore. And I was kind of, yeah, I guess the North Shore, 20 miles from the beach, but okay. No, the Merrimack Valley, and they kind of look at you. So, working with our budding communities as well, that will help us economically. A process we use is technical review committee. This is where someone comes in when they do flourish, float out an idea, and they say, look, I'm trying to do this. What does that mean? What do I have to do? We say, well, come on in, and we put everyone in the room that we can think of. That's police, fire, clerk's office, sometimes the town manager's office, can get there, all the departments in the division. And we sit at a table somewhat like this, and we say, all right, give us your proposal. This is what we see. Maybe you want to do this. Sometimes it's really appreciative when someone's about ready to do plans and spend some good money on plans, and this, well, wait a minute, you should think about this a little better, and it focuses their efforts and our efforts, and then streamlines the effort going forward once, kind of get everything not pre-approved, but certainly pre-understood. And that's something we want to bolster up. The assistant director, Jean Enright, she leads that effort. She will even do that more and more and more. So, as to economic development, it's tied. We are a residential community. We know we are. I think we want to be, and we're comfortable with that. We're proud of that. We'll always be predominated by that. So when there's this expectation, do you just bring in economic development, and that'll do this and that, we can do this and do that. Clearly, we're always working and striving to do that. I know you guys are aware of it, but context, right? 87% to 13% residential to commercial, and we're talking almost $4 billion in residential value and like a $500 million, almost $600,000 in commercial. If we bring in a huge development, huge being, say, 300,000 square foot brand new building, it really, the bottom line is shifting that needle is, of course, it doesn't shift all that much. But that's big news, if we brought in a 300,000 square foot brand new building with, more importantly, how many jobs does that bring and how many jobs for our residents, and certainly tapping into the job pool of the region. Some things, again, are beyond our control. When we hear that there's a major, you ask what we do, when we hear there's a major business looking in Massachusetts, and we're wired to those that are hearing it at the state level or regional level, and they'll let you know if we don't hear it on the street. We reach out to them. We put North Andover in the mix, but sometimes it's just about where community sits, right? I'll give you some examples. We did have a very large nationally known company was looking for a 200,000 square foot kind of office plant, offered very reasonable rents here in town, paid more because the workers kind of wanted to be, we need to be no further than 128.93. Takes us out of the mix. So we deal with that. Actually dealt with one fitness company looking to locate in Massachusetts, said they needed to be near the New Hampshire border, and we thought, well, we're good. We weren't close enough to the border, I guess, and so they're like, okay. So, these are things you deal with, but we keep plowing anyway. As to the outlook, I've handed out, this are the occupancies permits, issued in 2015 by month. I think it's pretty indicative of what we see. A lot of small, restaurants, barbershops, nail salons, you get those. You'll see a lot of activity at the West Mill. That's the 4 High Street one. I'll get into that in a second. We're very excited about what's going on there. But I just want to give you, this is kind of a good snapshot of what we see. That doesn't mean we don't try and land the bigger fish, but a lot of our efforts are just trying to get these businesses in and making their process simple.
Can I ask you what the asterisk means on David's name in Osgood?
Owner name, David is, he is the owner of the, he works for the company, one of the principals of the owner of the building. He's not the owner of the company that's in there. When they pull the permit, when they pull the permit, you'll see not provided as to who the business name is. Sometimes you'll see one. And I think that's the owner's name. They just put it under his name. The real owner is a corporation or,
Excuse me, what is the asterisk for?
The asterisk?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not the actual owner. He's the representative of the owner.
It's not on this sheet, right?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
That's what I'm asking.
Okay, yes, exactly right.
But is that done on purpose?
It means that it's...
Yeah, that's right. There's a realty trust there.
Is that done on purpose to hide the name of the company?
No, well, sometimes, no, it's not on purpose.
Okay.
It's not on purpose. They're just actually pulling a permit
Yeah.
to do a fit-out for a tenant or prospective tenant. So the permit is issued in that case, David's name or one...
So this High
12
Street
Osgood
listings, the multiple listings could be all different companies?
I'm sorry?
So the multiple 4 High Street listings
Yes,
could be
those are all
multiple
different
different
companies.
companies?
Yes. Those are for all different tenants. Some of which we don't know, some
Yeah.
we should, frankly. We do get them eventually. But this was just, I pulled this out and said, give me the COs we've issued to date. And that's what popped up on our chat.
Could I ask you,
Yep.
are you going to be discussing anytime today about the Route 125?
Yep.
You are?
I'm getting
Okay.
into the 3 main areas that we focus on, obviously. First one, if you want, I'll start with 125. Let me go to that. 125. Clearly, pretty long stretch. For the most part, the plazas and coming from east to west, no, excuse me, that's actually south to north, doing well. Osgood Landing is, of course, the big property that everyone's focusing on, or there's great focus on, 170 plus acres. It's been challenging in that, for what is it now? Since 2007, we've had an overlay in place. We are, the town manager and the board of selectmen have just are putting together a committee to look at that overlay. I'll be chairing that committee. We have some representatives from some of the boards, most of the boards, from the board of selectmen itself, as well as the community. We're just looking at it and saying, all right, why haven't we gotten anything out of this overlay?
What do you mean by
what do we
overlay?
need? The overlay, I apologize.
No, that's okay.
The Osgood property is the former Lucent. Okay. There is underlying zoning,
Yep.
and that underlying zoning was historically industrial too, certainly reflecting Lucent and everything else that was there. An overlay district, it's called the 40R Smart Growth District, overlays the underlying zoning. This district allows for mixed use, offices, just a higher and better use for that site. It doesn't restrict it to just industrial. It also allows for residential. Under 40R, you have to have a residential component, and there is a residential component. The town voted that at town meeting in 2007. Frankly, I think we'd look at it and say not much has changed at that site, and not what we expected that overlay to create, and I think the owners would agree with that.
Right.
And
So at the time, just for a little context, Jennifer, I believe the proposal was something like 600 units,
530
Right.
residential units, yeah.
Right, and there was an agreement with a major, like Toll Brothers, or a similar major,
Avalon.
another similar national, I think, publicly traded developer. So it was, when it came to town meeting in 2007,
Right.
it was certainly
Yep.
seen as like this is going to happen, and then we all know what happened next.
In 2008,
The market crash, and everything. It never came to fruition.
So, right, and so the purpose of the committee is to look at it and, take a hard look and say what works, what doesn't work, what can we do to make it better. It's really just, again, it's been 8 years plus, almost 9 years, so let's take a look at this. And that's its purpose. It's maybe we keep it all in place, maybe we change it completely, whatever, but working with the owner and everyone else, the town will figure out what today is in its best interest. And how to spur that development. There is a proposal for a 6-megawatt solar farm. That's been through planning, where it is in the process, but we obviously there'd be some revenue generation for the town on that, but the question is, and we're still not certain, how does that work in terms of, does that make it better, easier to develop the site the way we should, or does it, well, wait a minute, So that's another thing, we're cognizant of and working through. Sure.
Is that would be solar ground mounted?
Both on the roof and on the ground. I think through planning process, more were moved on the roof, and also the Board of Selectmen, I know, had given that indication that's where their preferences were. The owners have indicated and that when development does occur, we can move these panels onto the roofs of any new structure or any changes that get done. That was important, I know, to us in town. So I'm trying to think of most of it's on the roof right now.
Right, because I thought there's already...
There is some on the roof,
So,
right.
I wasn't sure how extensive it was.
Right, yeah.
And is that amount, would it be a very large space, or? I'm not sure.
The coverage?
Yeah.
If you're looking at the building?
No, if it was a ground mounted.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to give you, if you're looking at the building, there's some on the left, towards the Holt Road side, set back. That was there was more on left and right on the original proposal, but a lot of that's been moved up on the roof, or moved back, or moved behind the existing building, kind of where the tractor-trailer school is.
Training.
So some of them are just straight-out ground mount. Some of them are on elevated carports over parking. And again, the mounts on the roof, panels on the roof.
What influence do you have over the owner of the property?
Well, one, we respect, people's ownership of their property. We try to work closely with everyone who owns their property. As to influence, the way I look at it personally, any influence we would have, a lot of it would be, look, this not only makes sense for the town, it makes sense for you. And, sometimes we're a capitalist society, I respect that. And so, you have to appeal to that. I think, more dialogue, the better. As to influence, I certainly don't want to use that term,
Let me ask it differently,
Yep,
if you don't mind.
sure.
Do you have the ability to go to the owner and say, what effort have you made to try to fill the property?
We work together on that, and the owners do make efforts. We've had some conversation with them when they've brought some ideas to us. I've had, just so you know, a lot of conversation with people at the state level that really kicked off. The town manager brought in the new Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. He toured the site, very impressed with the site. It's on their radar screen. We have a lot of conversation, I do, town manager as well, with the Office of Business and Development person for this region. Working with her, we brought out Mass Bio. I've talked to Mass Bio, Mass Life Sciences. They toured the site, so we're trying to because over the years maybe it's fallen down, maybe it hasn't. We talked to Mass Econ as a system where businesses come in and look for sites, and they help facilitate that. Congressman Moulton has a new economic development director. He's been out to the site, quite impressed with it.
So your group is the one attracting all that?
Yeah, we're doing that, but we certainly let the owner know. You get calls and sometimes from developers. I had one considering we've had some ideas of a major ice rink facility. I mean, multiple rinks and hotels, and you get them all, and then, they're shopping around the state, and you try and do that. So we do work. Yep.
Is the sewer really an issue?
They have, not for them, not that I know. They have their own sewer. Lucent or Western Electric had built its own system. I remember, you guys might remember a little better, there's a proposal at town meeting to extend the sewer down to 125. It can be, it ends at Hokkaido. So there is that gap between Hokkaido and the Haverhill line. The only thing really that does have sewer is the Osgood site.
Okay.
And that's only because the owners at the time had their own system.
Okay.
And that does
So
go
it's not
to
a limiting
GLC.
issue to develop in?
Not to that site.
Thank you.
No. I don't know if we want to get off Lucent and go to others. There's
Down the line a little bit?
well,
Are we doing anything with the city of Haverhill to
in terms of
facilitate development of that?
Osgood? We haven't done much. We've had some discussion. Lawrence has certainly, the mayor of Lawrence has been at the table or in some of these discussions with state officials, because he recognizes, look, if we get this, this is a huge opportunity for the region, and certainly a huge opportunity if we get the right jobs. If you do get bio companies, there's different levels of positions that people in Lawrence, certainly workers in Lawrence, can be trained for, and we do have a good workforce for certain attracting to it. So he knows the significance of the site. I think Mayor Fiorentini as well. I know the town manager's in discussions with them. We've talked, my counterparts in Haverhill and Methuen and Andover and Lawrence, working together, but not just for us, but all the way to the Salisbury, for the rest of the, I guess, the eastern part of Merrimack Valley. But, in terms of any hard idea, no. Moving toward the airport, the Fregetta site, we are, that's it's about 15 acres. You'll see 5 signs right across from, right where the McClay development is. Yeah, it's about 14 acres. In January, we will be sitting in a TRC with some proposed developers for a mixed-use, pretty good-sized development there. So, that thing's been vacant since, over 10 years. So, we're excited about bringing, again, what we can do, Jennifer, I think, is when they come in, we sit and we can promote certain things that, as a town, we want, and work, and hopefully they'll, and we tweak it again. It's, hopefully we tweak it. And some things people have by right, and you work with that. But for the most part, developers come in and this is what we're trying to do. We sit, we have a good conversation with them and how that fits in. Again, that's why the master plan itself is critical. Because it'll set the vision for each of these areas, how they leverage off each other, what it means for the community. We want a clear vision set. We'll set the process to match that vision, and we'll stick to it. That's our goal going forward, and certainly getting as much of that done in 2016 as we can. But that's good news on the Fregetta site. The airport is doing some work on, with their runways and all that. I sit with the director of the airport on a constant basis. I think we can utilize that better. I think it can attract certain businesses. The mass bio people and the life science, they loved it. For companies that overseas may want to, they're looking at Massachusetts. They look at Boston, and they define basically a big region around Boston is what they look at. But that helps. And how do we utilize that airport better and make that a better looking facility, and working with them, and they've been very good. Mike Miller is director there, and he's been great.
You see it at Hanscom and Howell Lab, they've taken a lot of the former electronics companies and converted to biotech, and these guys are flying their corporate jets in and out of Hanscom. Yeah.
I mean, my understanding is when Converse was here, top executives flew in all the time. Get a couple of companies. That helps. As we say, that car, we have planes, trains, and automobiles right there. The commuter rail. We get the right development, we keep it on the agenda of the state. We'd like a stop there, commuter stop.
Yeah.
But it would be great. But, I get it from the state says, sure, but we don't just build it. What are we building it with? And so that's what, we're trying to, again, work together and creating that.
So we have,
What's it?
there is some progress with the state
Yes.
on the transportation hub idea.
It's always been out there, I think.
But I mean something real.
Yeah, but I think it's incumbent upon us of creating the other part.
Well,
Yeah,
sure,
so-
but then we can get some state funding maybe.
But we have to create it.
I think you'd also have to
Creating
look at-
it is a difficult and complex process, I would presume, right? And then also justify it.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting when you just looked at like New Balance's new facility out on Brighton They built the commuter rail
Yes.
station along with the state. So it was, I mean, obviously that's probably one end of the spectrum, but probably looking.
That's a huge amount of development out there.
Right.
But they
New Balance.
invested
We're
their
just
own
there
money
the other
in that.
day. Right.
That's right. They built, and then the commuter rail came in.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and then Alewife, for instance, I mean, that station
Yep.
was just hanging out there by itself for about 20 years, and then all of a sudden, boom. Was it maybe open 25 years ago? But today you go out there, and it's just absolutely built up with very nice-looking apartment buildings everywhere.
Right, but
And-
the state is
yeah.
really asking us to build first or show
No,
commitment
I think
to that
knowing that if we have
promise.
the right development plan in place and we're pursuing that and they see movement on it, I don't want to speak for the state.
Okay, well,
but,
it's sort of you move this way, and then you get some movement that way, this way.
They're aware of it. They certainly didn't dismiss it, and
No.
encouraged the discussion. So it's all been positive. I'm going to move off 125, I think, to 114. 114, there's a lot of activity in Eagle Woods. They're doing well, so as they move up. Can't underscore enough the presence of Merrimack College. They're, as an economic engine, their expansion with dorms and other things, and they're doing well with their students and faculty and their presence, and adds to that area, I think is, again, I don't want to underscore, you can't underscore that enough. But you'll see, I think, in some of those listed businesses, someone might move out, someone will move in. We've had Be Good Burger move in where my kids miss the gelato place, I do too. But Be Good Burger is great as well. Chipotle's certainly doing well. Subway went in there, so we get some nice food establishments to complement what the long-standing tenants. The Crossroads Plaza, where Fuddruckers and Tripoli's are, that's doing well. Georgetown Bank is going to move in there. I don't think they pulled the permit, but they haven't. I don't know how much of the work they've done.
It's on the 114 side. I think they're actually doing work out there.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, are they? All right. So I know
The
they pulled
paper's
the
already up, and they're already
They're doing
cleaning
some
it.
dorming.
They're doing the dormer, right?
Yeah.
So, the owners, they move, they get new tenants, and, there's always going to be someone, I think, kind of moving out, moving in. But going further out towards Middleton, certainly,
residential.
we have a lot of residential. It's not necessarily a bad thing. As a matter of fact, there was at one point, I think our master plan was trying to create density out in that end of 114. But we are seeing a couple of proposals out that way, but more in line, light industrial. One and I'm not at liberty really to talk about it. I don't think, and that's part of our process, right? We don't advertise a lot of our discussions because we can't, and we don't want to until it becomes more of a reality. But I think this one would be closing in, and it's right at Sharpner's Pond and 114, and I think the business is going in there. It's a very good business, and will make that entranceway into North Andover a lot more attractive. And so I'm happy about that. Hopefully all that goes well. We did have a TRC already, initial one. We'll follow up with that.
TRC?
I'm sorry, that's that Technical Review Committee. And that did go well, from what I was in on the first half of it, and it was seemingly going well. But you're right, there is a lot of residential development out there, particularly the Berry Street, Berry Farms project. And they're moving fast. But that will bring in, people that need to shop, people that want to shop and not go as far from it to get to,
Have you seen an uptick in businesses that'll be interested because the building in front of it is up for sale? There's land over to the left across the Stop and Shop that's up for sale. Has there been an uptick because there's going to be more residential down that way?
I'm sorry, you're saying Stop and Shop?
6.9 acres across from Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
Am I right? Just along
Slight.
the 114
I don't,
corridor
I
toward
think
Middleton?
when you start seeing the buildings actually getting near
Then the
completion,
businesses
yeah,
will.
then they'll
Okay.
really kind of jump on it. One of the businesses I'm referring to is right near there. Again, it'll have a mixed-use component to it, but it'll primarily be more like a light industrial site. Downtown.
What is downtown, by the way?
Your geographic area?
Yeah.
Okay. In my mind, it is that bottom part of Sutton Street, Main Street,
Okay.
to Water Street, to the east and west mill.
Thank you.
That's how I define downtown area. And perhaps where we're seeing the most visual changes. I'll start closer to Sutton Street, and we have businesses, some businesses going in there as a fitness or a, I don't know if it's Zumba or something like that, one of those kind of things going in. You know, and Nikki's is doing well. Nikki's roast beef, great roast beef. So that area is we're seeing some activity. Coming in, Bradstreet School's down, as you know. The residential building, the foundation's in, the permit's pulled, and I saw they're setting up, putting the foundation in for the commercial building, which is on the street side. So we're excited about what that'll do and start to do, and I think generate others to now look closely, more closely at that part of Main Street. And you've seen some investment where people have changed worked on their facade, and I think it's looking good. We know it can look better, and we need to build off that as well and help people to do that. In the middle, the main, First and Main, the plaza. There's some open areas there, but I know the Messinas are working hard to work on that, and we're there to help them. But again, I think it's a great asset. We have 3 good anchor properties, I think, for our downtown. That in the middle, Brad Street, and then East and West Mill. There is a lot of activity going on in the mills. We're very pleased. We work very closely with them. They bring us in when they have someone that they feel they want to woo, and lack of a better term, woo. And we work closely with the owners there. As you know, they knocked down the middle building. They recognize that we have a lot of square footage. We need parking, so they took down a structure to be able to create parking, but they also knew that would create a better vista with the pond, and they can make some nice changes there. There are parts of that site where new buildings can be constructed. There is an opportunity for, I think, some great mixed-use live, work, play environment there. And I think you'll see that in 2016, a big jump in that could help transform or really bring a lot of eyes to that area. You'll see even Water Street, there's a new business going in where, what was it, Pumpernickel's way back when? Eats and all that. It's on Water Street. There's it'll be a breakfast and lunch place there. Her permit was just pulled. Her approval's in place. Her permit's just pulled. So we're seeing that. And I think, for me, it'd be great to see that transformation of our downtown. I mean, we have some really good businesses, but if we could get more activity, and some of the things we do and what we can do is things like farmers markets. We're pursuing that to bring more activity, downtown on weekends or, on a Sunday morning when no one's really down there. We're looking at a facade or a building front improvement program. It's a little tougher for us. We're not an entitlement community, so we don't get federal or state funds to do those things. And so we have to, get a little more creative about that. But we're working to do that. And I have to say, it's been great. The leadership in town, the Board of Selectmen, all the boards, and certainly the town manager, promoting this and getting this going. It's been good to be working with them. So I think I'll stop with that. It's a lot, but and answer any questions you may have.
What I was always wondering is really, what's the vision? What's the vision of the Board of Selectmen, for example, with the town manager, where we want to go, where we want to focus?
Right.
And I don't know if you see it, I don't see it. There's not much involvement of of people of North Andover. Do we have an initiative, get a farmers market into downtown? I can't see it. Maybe I don't know it, but I know a lot of other towns, they have these initiatives, and then it's a lot more involvement, and it helps you a lot more than just say, let's bring a farmer's market in that nobody cares about. There are two pieces kind of missing. I applaud what you do, but how you're supported by the vision of the selectmen and the town manager, and how is actually from more below, how are actually the residents of North Andover, is there the initiative 125, let's do something, I miss that a little bit. Do you see this?
So the engagement of the residents of the town themselves. I will say the Board of Selectmen are engaged. I mean, you're certainly aware. I talk to them often. They're certainly very concerned and promote. Let's get economic development. But again, I think we need to reinvigorate all that, and I think this master plan process will do that. This revision, this review of the master plan, because we will reach out and engage with the community. We did have the what do they survey monkeys or showing my age, I don't know what that stuff is, where we reached out and had a pretty good response from the community about some of the things they wanted. We were focusing on the downtown. We need to do a little more of that, but we did do it, and we got some good ideas. Predominant upon that was farmers market, and so we are pursuing that. We just couldn't get it this past. It was too late for us to get in.
Those surveys?
No, that was,
I remember it was
March.
Yeah,
something like that.
I remember it coming out last spring.
Yeah,
and I forget how it was disseminated. I don't know exactly how.
Because I've been
might still be
watching
online.
Hawk for 2 years. That's maybe you got to be on the email list.
We
I know I am too, but
I get 4 phone calls when I think shuts down.
I know, seriously. So you're clearly on it. I know.
I get a text, I get a fax, I get...
I want to say we had 800 responses on one of them. I can't remember now. It was a pretty good response on. We were focusing on students and the seniors, and then that. I have a feeling when the school at the time, Superintendent Hutchison sent out, we're looking for these responses, and he sent it out as a school age children. I get that email. And I thought, oh, okay. So next thing we did this big response. We knew most of that response was parents going on and saying, okay, and voicing it. But the funny thing is, it was pretty consistent among all age groups. We were asking things, do you shop downtown? How many times? Do you consider we have a downtown? What's lacking in the downtown? I do think what's not and what we need to bring downtown are a sense of community in terms of, where do kids go to hang a little bit, and where can you go and walk, and kind of, it goes to a character of community. And so we want to create that. And we're trying to do that, and hopefully this year you'll see much more activity down there. It kind of rolls up at 4:30. And there's some real good businesses there, some good restaurants, and I'd like to, certainly keep them and grow off that. I forgot to mention, of course, that the town hall renovations, I think will also play a big part of that. We're going to be, everyone's coming my way for 9 months to Osgood, beginning next month. Poor Angela, she finally got back downtown, and she's coming back.
Everybody will be back pretty soon.
She can't get rid of us.
From a mile commute to now I have 3 miles.
3 miles.
I know.
But, when town hall's completely, now all this office, and we're talking 20 employees, whatever, and then the foot traffic our office brings will all be downtown, so that'll help.
Is there any plans for more parking?
There is parking plan that was done. I believe we're looking at, it was a pretty good presentation. I know with the Board of Selectmen, the lot behind Town Hall can be reconfigured, redone, and we can get applaud Gene Willison, this town engineer. I think he came up with some good solutions to create more parking. The study actually showed it's more perception than reality that there's no parking. And that's a good thing. But we've added some spaces here and there.
In the budgets to come, is there money for the facade of the town? What's been set aside for marketing the town more outwardly, the facades, development?
Yeah, that's part of the conversation that we're going to be going through. We're going through pretty much now, starting this budget. Yeah,
okay.
Hopefully we do that. And well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Quick question, it's close to downtown, but it's on the North Main Street side of the railroad tracks. I was doing some title and deed land plan search down there. I bought a commercial property last week down there, but there was a plan filed. Land was purchased by CPA money near the river, and there was a plan put in for, in 2001, an engineer drew it up for a boat ramp and parking lot. And nothing's happened. And it's out there at the Essex County Registry of Deeds if you want to look it up. I just moved my septic pumping company to North Andover this week, so just a side note. So
2001, a CPA funds?
Yeah, they purchased the land from, I can't think of the name of the person that owned it. It's right, you've got the entrance to the to the Greater Lawrence Sanitary District intake.
Right.
And they bought the land in front of the building I just bought. And to the left side, going down North Main Street, I think there was a fence company, or now there's a landscaper in there. But there's a block of land in there that was purchased by the town, and they have a plan that was filed in 2001 by an engineering firm to put in a parking lot and a boat ramp.
So the town purchased the land, but has not developed it.
They have decided, well, I mean, you know, the place is flooded a few times too, you know. I mean, so maybe it's not feasible, you know. I mean, that whole side of the railroad tracks down there has flooded.
Camouflage on the facilities master plan. Now, when you talk about the master plan, you're not talking about the facilities master plan.
No, it's a different one.
It's a different, yeah. But I've never seen anything about that.
I was doing some research on some property, you know, boundaries and stuff, and I ran into it. Because it was owned by the same person at one point that, you know, one of the building I bought was a mill, the old wool dye house and drying house, you know.
It's funny.
Part of Sutton's Mill, you know, at one point. So.
It's in line with one of the things that certainly like to accomplish is opening up the river.
Yeah.
Talked to some people, I said, well, I want to open up access to the river, and people say, what river?
Yeah, it's a mess down there.
But I look at them, we're on the Merrimack, and we have a lot of land along the Merrimack River, but if
You would never know because it's not developed in a way that people would use it.
Well, you have an airport, you have the GLSD, but
No, but I mean,
clearly
like,
Osgood Landing is an
walkways
opportunity, and you're right. So I'd love to, that's an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I just, it was like bizarre, you know, I was just hunting around looking for stuff because I'm kind of a, you know, old house person type, standoffs. Yeah. But I was curious to see what had happened with the land down there and how it got divided up, and, you know, I was a little title searching, you know. But you'll find the plan, the whole thing's there. I mean, it's not one page, it's like 8 or 9 pages of...
In the registry?
Yeah, it's registered. I mean, you can look it up online, and Lawrence Registry of Deeds. I mean, in Lawrence, Essex County,
What is being done actively for reach out? Like, what'd you say? There's positive reach out to businesses to locate in North Andover, right? Or proactive? I'm not quoting you verbatim here. I hear a lot of things done with somebody's interested in our town and you guys being in front of them.
Right.
But what about proactively reaching out to large business?
So part of that effort...
That's 2016.
Well, yeah, but it's not like it hasn't been happening. Part of that effort includes interaction with, again, the state offices.
Does that fall on you, or like people
does
on
fall
your
on-
team,
yeah.
like the planning team, or is
No,
that?
it falls on me predominantly. So if you, just going back to that chart, building has the building inspector.
Where they're
building
reacting
inspector,
to, yeah.
Right. So when it comes to economic or trying to attract businesses, it's really on me. The other staff is more for getting it
Right.
through the process.
Right. You have a lot on your plate.
Is there like a handout, when somebody knocks on your door and you say, hey, this is what we offer, we have top, middle school, high school, we have all these sports activities, and this is all in town, and so that, we'll sell North Andover well with everything we have.
Right, we do have some things, I think that needs to be updated. It's funny, it was a very good conversation with our new superintendent. She and I sat down and we talked about some of that. Mass Bio people even said that, look, we bring someone in, they want to know what your schools are doing in this and what this. So, yeah, we are working on, we do have some things, but, yeah. But it'd be nice to get that kind of, that great package. And I know the town manager's on me to get that done. Not only that, a couple packages, right? One, we do have one, Welcome to North Andover, when the business comes in, but as well. But can make that even better. But it's a good point.
Is that Merrimack Valley group, I'm misquoting, but I read about them a while ago. Are they being helpful in helping you with marketing? Like, is that, because that's multiple towns coming together?
You're talking, well, we have, so again, part of our efforts are working with first of all, the Merrimack Valley Chamber of Commerce. This is the Merrimack Valley Economic Development Council.
I think that was it. Were they had a website and they're like, we're doing something?
Well, then that's the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission, where there is a website. Merrimack Valley Means Business. I think they worked with the chamber on that as well, and we're part of that.
Okay.
And it's basically Greater Lawrence to the ocean again, for the most part. The communities that are part of the MVPC, the Planning Commission. So yes, we work closely with them as well.
Okay.
And they're, just so you know, they are redoing that website.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I make no judgments
the
about that.
Planning Commission, we were just both in that meeting last week. I
Yes.
think, that they've developed a new website that's about the Merrimack Valley that has a lot of demographics. Very
Good,
nice.
good. Because
Right.
the current one
Merrimack
is,
Valley Planning Commission, and I think it's under resources. It's nice.
I think you can do, I don't know if you can do Merrimack Valley Means Business, and that pops up, right?
That might be too, yeah.
Yeah. Great.
good.
Well, thank you very much
Thank you, sir.
for making the time to
Yeah.
meet with us. And see you again in the spring.
Yeah, on,
Good luck with
I
that.
promise to know what the budget is, but thank you.
The dirty secret is none of us knew our first year either.
You guys were all quite kind. Andrew said, Eric said, yeah, let him go.
Okay. Social media policy. So why don't I do a quick intro, overview, we'll make some adjustments, and we'll see what we have.
Can I talk about my comment about the idea of us not doing it before we go through this, or do we talk about that after?
Oh, I didn't, did you send an email later?
Yeah, but I didn't know if I could, so.
Yeah. So, sure. I mean, let's talk it. So,
The town already has social media. So, and we're not posting opinion, we're posting factual meeting dates and
Right.
education. So I would like to propose that the town post it on their social media.
What social media other than the website?
Several. They have Facebook, Twitter, they have like 7 different icons. And they have 2,000 plus followers alone on Facebook.
2,000?
2,000 plus. And they have the list of everybody in the town
Yeah.
that they can market it to,
Right.
which we don't have.
What's happening on that Facebook and all the social media of the town? Just looking it up.
I'm not getting any much from it, but I don't know if I didn't set up my feed to not get much, because I told you I'm not very active on Facebook.
Right.
Maybe I should flip my switch and see and let you guys know, but my thought is, before we endeavor in this, if it's already established and the town already has it, are we in the position to request the town do it?
I mean, I suppose we could do a little bit more research and take a look at it, and I certainly...
I should have. I apologize, too.
Yeah,
I don't know why I didn't.
I think that's certainly something we could look at. I haven't done, I haven't contacted people in IT. There's no sort of social media. I did look on the website to see if there was anything, like as I started to write a social media policy, I did check to see if North Andover had one. I did find that other municipalities have social media policies. But I didn't, I did not reach out and see, who's managing any accounts under the North Andover.
Well, I think it would be a good idea to table this then, I guess, perhaps.
I don't think it would be, I don't disagree with you. I just
can't see it.
And if people want to make a motion about it right now, my thought is that as we head into the budget season, when we come back in January, we're going to be considering the capital, the SIP, and we'll be considering other things. And so I don't necessarily see it as anything that would be a problem. Like, what's the, if we try to sort of controlled, this is my opinion, if we tried in a controlled experiment in social media and it didn't work, we would simply delete the account. We could simply take stock and get to a certain point and say our social media, presence isn't having the desired goals, and we could delete it. Like, I don't think of it as that big a thing. I certainly, can make some phone calls tomorrow and see, who's managing the town accounts. The one I looked at today for the town of North Andover hadn't been updated since 2012.
Wow.
So.
Is this a Facebook account?
I can't get the town on mine because it shuts off the social media on the homepage. This is not very mobile friendly.
There is actually the police department has their own Facebook. The youth center has their own Facebook. The high school has their own Facebook.
Right.
Oh, you're on Facebook. But the town has its own. Like, if you go on the town homepage, there's all the icons.
Yeah, in the town. So I think each sections have their own thing.
People can't follow it. It's too much.
It's
information.
Well, the advantage of your own is you jump there and then it's really just about.
I agree.
The police department. It's not, you have to go through.
Yeah.
So I think that should not. That I think could still. I don't think it speaks against us to have one. If we really want to put our information out there, I think it's probably better to have your own than be within the town where, you can't really see it. If you jump there, basically the town says, we're open today from 8 o'clock to 4:30. How many people like it? And then there are a couple of comments. That's all what's on that Facebook page.
I know, but I guess, yes. What I'm proposing, though, is it's not active because nobody's asking them to be active, versus going to them and saying, we would like these posts. I don't know what we're allowed to say versus tell, but they already have a following. The
government organization has 2,300 people.
I have to be honest with you. I'm not going to set this up before January. I'm out of town for a week and a half, number one. Number two, I don't have that many followers in this community. Mine are national. So how am I going to build, and you guys all invite your friends onto it? Half of you are on Facebook. How do you get this to 2,000 plus people immediately and then virally spread? You have to use a network that's already in existence. That's all I'm saying is we're trying to get the word out.
I think that's certainly reasonable, and I don't have any particular, I mean, listen, I put some thoughts together about how we should go about it. I've looked into some different ways in which, some different issues we should consider, some of which we've talked before about, what's appropriate to be, what's open meeting law,
Right.
would a bunch of us commenting on a post somewhere somehow, broach over into, debate and open meet and become sort of a meeting. And so we have to be careful about that. We have to be careful about
But Bill,
different things.
not to interrupt, but I think that it doesn't matter where we're going to do our social media. We're going to need a policy anyway. So
Right.
if we don't have time in the future to be looking this over, why not look it over tonight?
Oh, I don't mind looking it over, but I thought we're also discussing the idea of to do it.
And it sounds like we probably need a little bit more research because,
Right.
if we can use another Facebook page, maybe we'll want to do that. But considering that now we hear that there's police has their own page, other people have their own page, so maybe we need to do some more research on it first.
Change the Facebook page from Town of North Andover to North Andover Finance Committee and Town of North Andover.
It says
That's
North
exactly
Andover
where I was
Town
going,
Offices.
yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Great. Is there a way to
They all start like
I
that.
think part of the question too
take over
is,
their website?
where are people going to go to look for certain information? And if we're posting things like where our meetings are being held, if we're posting that already on the website,
That's already there.
and then we're posting it again on social media, you have immediately the chance for them to be conflicting. And if you update one, you have to update the other. It just
Right.
seems
Right.
as though, we need to think about, like, what kinds of things do we really want to put up there? Because under open meeting law, we have to post an announcement of the meeting. If we provide conflicting information on Facebook, are we causing a problem under the open meetings law?
Right. So, I mean, these are the things I was trying to think about, as we put out the policy. So,
And then we can-
why don't we just do this? Can we have like a general sense? I think Susan's thought was pretty reasonable. Maybe we should talk about the policy and then leave the execution for a later date. So at least we've had the conversation, and we can revise the policy from where it is now.
And we can be thinking about how we can obtain those 2,200 contacts.
Followers,
There's
right.
got to be a way to, squeeze over here and get it over
Right.
here.
I mean, because frankly, a lot of it could just be, it could be very simply, from that account, they could say, here are our friends over at the Finance Committee. Like them if you want to know about upcoming, if you're interested in the town budget.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that there's something to be said to have the information come from the Finance Committee, to feel like they're connected to the actual Finance Committee as opposed to, I'm going to go to the town website, I'm going to search around for stuff about the budget and look for these documents and just look on the general meeting schedule. There might be people who we're hoping, really want to know what the Finance Committee's doing. And so for that reason, it might be good to have one specific place where it is our voice. And maybe it would be great if we could kind of go together with the Town of North Andover Facebook page.
Well, that's exactly what they've done. So like the Conservation has posted a link to their latest agenda and everything, but it's through the town. And so it's not, they didn't create their own Facebook page, but the question is it the planning board, like the planning board here is a conservation, I'm scrolling through all that, were they allowed to kind of log into that Facebook and post, or did they ask the town, would you mind posting this? Here's the words, here's the link. I'm presuming it's the latter. If it's the latter, then this gets easy. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, and now there's 2,300 plus people, and they're all getting one stream. Right?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm using technical terms, but yeah.
No, but
I probably should just
totally
print
on
some
board
of that out
so we can
look at it.
research that and figure that out.
Well, that doesn't keep us from considering this policy.
No.
I'm just on these Facebook. I mean, I've never really went there, but actually, it's quite interesting to go through.
Well, see, what I like is, I get a separate email from planning, a separate email from conservation, you know what I mean, I'm on all those lists, right? Instead, I get one feed. I like it better. And on this, I get all the same information, but it's only from one place versus separate emails. So that's the question.
But it's our own, we can, whatever picture we want to put there, we can put there, whatever we want to post. if we go for the town, probably more restricted, probably less interesting.
So this social media that you created did not come from the town's social media policy?
No,
You created this from...
There is no, as far as I can tell, there's no town social media policy.
Oh,
So,
Well, that's kind of
that's
interesting.
interesting. Maybe we should review this with that thought in mind as well.
All right.
There should,
Is that true?
One last anecdote before going
Never-
to
No
you never
pictures
signed-
without-
Signed anything about social media?
That wouldn't be under me. I have a feeling
that
Know
probably
that you had to
And-
sign that you follow these social media rules and policy.
that'd be your company or mine. Not the town.
Oh.
No, but in-
No, it might be, yeah.
That's
Do you
really
have to sign
interesting.
anything?
I would think the town
Because
should
I
have
feel,
that.
yeah,
You'd think,
organizations
maybe.
have- You probably can't use social
Well, there's so much to get tripped up on.
acceptable use.
Right.
Than social media.
It seems like we're the tail wagging the dog here.
Well, I mean, I don't think it,
Yeah, that's
I don't
what I
think
think.
And not to make us, the tail, but, I'm just saying that it would seem that this should actually, there should be an overreaching
Yeah.
social media policy in place for the town, and then that would also cover people that serve on committee.
Selectmen is
Just
town
like when you come in
manager,
and you do the ethics review, you have to follow all these procedures and agree that you've done the
Right.
training. Well, it would seem that we would all have to do that with a social media policy as well.
Maybe they've done it on like the HR policies or something,
Yeah, that would only cover.
Yeah, I'm sure
hiring,
I'm
but
sure there are
it wouldn't
policies
cover
on social media
appointees
that are
or
part of
elected
employment,
officials.
Right.
employment contracts.
Yeah.
A question asked to the right person, you'd find out.
Right.
Yeah,
Great.
ask about
I think we're making it way too complicated.
But still.
I thought it was a great idea to do something like that, with just going with the flow. I know, I have no idea how time consuming it is,
Right.
and,
Oh,
almost,
do we wanna
almost
take-
taking the fun out of it.
Welcome to social
If you see
media.
what people use
I don't know
social
if
media
that
for.
needs- I mean, of course, we have
Did
to
you
use
want-
common
you wanted
sense,
your-
we're not gonna foul language or any all that stuff.
I'm the only one who
But,
doesn't. Yeah.
here and there, comment that gets maybe people excited in a good way, why not?
Well, if the chair agrees that the material is within the policy,
Well, I was trying
where
to
did
figure
that
out
come from?
Yeah. So let's start at the. Why don't we just start at the top? We'll take no more than 20 minutes, and we'll just
Yeah.
go through and take a look and see what changes we would, what if any changes we need to make to the policy itself. We'll leave all the questions of execution aside and just kind of bracket them as, we'll skip over them and say, we don't know how we're going to execute this yet, so we'll figure that out. But more, I think it's like, what are we going to post and how is more important, and what do we need to worry about? So for point 1, I guess, any questions, comments, concerns on point 1?
Yeah, I think that.
I think it's perfect.
Point one looks
That's
great.
exactly why we want to do it.
Wonderful, actually.
No?
And then 2, we'll just bracket because that's a decision we're going to make at some point.
And
Yeah, because we say we will establish, and we're saying both accounts, so
Right.
we can just sort
And
of...
a question there also would have to be considered is, where do you stop? If Twitter, Facebook, Instagram,
Right.
How
talked about
far
that,
do you go?
yeah.
How many
Right.
platforms are you on? So I would just, as we bracket that, I would also add, what are the other platforms and where do you draw the line?
Okay.
Would be a
Oh,
question.
all right, such as Twitter, Facebook, blah,
Facebook,
Instagram, blah, blah, blah.
Whatever gets developed in the future.
Right.
Okay.
And that sort of depends on who we're trying to reach.
Well, exactly,
Different
exactly,
demographics
because
use
different
different
demographics use
platforms.
different, yeah, absolutely.
But, right, like we're taking the fun out of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Facebook
Where?
are the old people, Instagram are the young people.
Oh,
That's what it is,
it's
you
true.
know? That's what it is.
You gotta pipe into the senior
Mothers
center.
and dogs on Facebook. Okay. Carry on.
Facebook.
Okay.
And then 3, I think, is,
He's not going to get on any of this.
And I work
Yeah.
for Microsoft. I'm interested.
Links to
so why don't we talk about 3, I think is very important. So again, I thought of this as kind of like a push, like,
It's a
I look at
push.
it as a push. And
Yeah.
so
That's good.
date, location, and time of meetings, And then the other concept I have here is that we don't want to be responsible for kind of the hosting of any documents. That it's all going to be links because the town has backups and all that, and for we wouldn't want something to go quote unquote missing, and have it be sort of on us to, where did this document go or something.
So all the documents will be posted on the website of the town publicly, and then we'll use that link.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Got it.
Yep.
So we already have a finance committee page, and there are all sorts of documents, posted there, and that we could link to that.
And it makes perfect sense that we would not respond to comments
No.
On any of the posts. That would be insane.
Right.
Yeah.
We would be pinned down.
Right.
And we get in great trouble. All right.
So that's 4. So on 3, are there anything else we would want to put in?
One of the things about point 4, we would have to specify somewhere on the account that that we're not going to respond to posts.
No, they'll have to be right
I
there.
think that would need to be made clear, or not even allow the functionality. I think Facebook, you can limit the
No,
ability.
you can't.
You can't?
No.
Others to post?
What?
Huh.
You can stop others from posting on your page if they're not your friends, but
Right.
you can't stop them from commenting unless you.
But
Oh, okay.
I think to Liz's point, though, just making statements is you can post all you want.
We're not responding.
But we're not responding.
You're going into the black hole.
Right.
I think you got three pretty well covered.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I do too.
Put them in the bid bucket.
And so 4, we'll add the comment that the page will state, the
That we will
page
not
will make it
respond.
clear that,
Yeah.
the committee won't respond, and, I guess, our emails are on, at least my email is on the page, so we could say, or we could certainly give out the FinCom@NorthAndover.com if people want to, and that would be a communication we might be able to respond to.
On Facebook, let's say somebody does respond, and they know we're not going to respond. Does anybody else see that so they get this conversation rolling?
Oh, sure.
Yes.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
We don't.
Wait. So somebody responds to something that we post,
Right.
Somebody else responds to them, they could have this whole.
so we can have this little fire going out there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Amongst themselves.
But we wouldn't be joining in on it.
Same
We
thing
don't
at Huntington
join. But I
Donuts,
mean-
too. They got the same-
We all have a few trolls, they might decide to troll the Facebook account.
I mean,
That's how you
time.
spread the word virally, by creating
Buzz.
People,
buzz.
you know,
Yeah.
that's it.
This is-
We want
Wait.
The same thing happened when I hit my fence.
Well.
People walk by.
We would
Wonder why
want
the
to know.
taxes went up.
Well, we would want to know if there is a fire out there.
Well, you can know
Can we
anytime you want.
monitor this
Yes,
ourselves?
You can read it anytime you want and put yourself on it as a friend to the group and
Okay.
read all the.
Don't
Okay.
participate.
We clearly have led them they clearly didn't they clearly misunderstood what we were saying, because look at all these comments.
Which is why we
over
have to
here.
stick to
Yeah, we-
Shall we
facts.
clarify this?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think maybe,
Okay.
I think the thing is that you need to avoid having a public discussion in the Facebook.
Yes, of course.
And so therefore, you might, the response would be, hey, the next meeting, we'll actually talk about this.
I was just going to
Come
say, and
to
then
the
it goes in the
meeting.
Put it in the
minutes.
agenda.
Put it in the
Yes.
agenda, but this
So indirectly we
requires
respond
Right.
effort
above
on
the
our
board.
part. So not only is this a push, but we, if we're going to use this
Right.
to the best advantage, are going to have to read this material and
If there's
and
any
determine to
comment or
respond to
You're
it.
going to know when the citizens have lit their torches.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Thank you,
Right?
folks. Yeah.
Maybe.
So I think 4, 5, 6, and 7
Yeah.
we've all said.
That's all
and
said.
It would be
Yep.
Open meeting law.
thing. 8 and 9 would be exactly how we would be things that we would bracket for further discussion. If we have an account, we'd figure out how to. That's more operational, so we can just take that out.
Which one? 8? No.
For 8 and 9.
8 and 9. Yep.
Hold on.
We'll just bracket.
Okay, no, just because this is operational.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing.
We don't have to talk about the chair doing this and that, right?
No. I don't have a good answer to that.
I have the same answer that Karen has. I don't have an account. It's real easy.
You made that very easy.
So the vice chair won't be there.
Right. And then I think too, we would at least look into, the only thing I can say is on the notice of meeting that Liz was talking about, I think, again, we would have to figure out how to handle that. I mean, obviously, we would want any information we're putting out to be as accurate as possible, but you run into things like a snowstorm, and I'm not so sure that, even in case of a snowstorm, that the town official calendar would be updated.
So let's talk about that accuracy. It's town information. It's already publicly available. What I see us doing is really focusing and concentrating our followers into that bucket, that funnel, saying, okay, here's one easy site for you to get all that stuff if you're interested in finance committee. It's not, I mean, unless one of us gets on there and voices an opinion, shoot us in the foot kind of thing, you will always have facts out there. You always have the documents out there. You may have a document that was misprinted that the town has to correct, but you won't have anything that I would worry about relative to bad information.
Public. Yes.
It's all public stuff.
Yeah, no opinion on public.
So we're not going to be restating these we're just going to provide a link to the date of the meeting on the town website?
Here's what I would like to see, and it'll just take work, just an idea. It came up in last meeting, is you throw out some interesting headlines like, hey, next week we're going to be talking about where the paving, where your streets are being paved. Wouldn't you like to know that? See this on page 31 of the CIP, or whatever page it is. And immediately you're funneling people into the right place and getting their interest. And the way you're doing it is with that bold headline. You're not doing it anywhere else. If you said CIP document, forget all of this. They can get that through the town website. So what we're trying to do is generate interest.
Appeal.
Yep, appeal.
How many people even know what the CIP is?
I did it before this, and I read a lot.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
what is that?
But that's a good point, but that's what you say.
It's the jargon even,
You just
yes.
start saying, how would you like a new fire truck?
Yeah.
Or
yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Don? It's basically you're taking people's local interest into something that they would normally never touch.
Right.
And I'll guarantee you, I didn't know about the paving streets document until I joined the board here, of the committee.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And so you're saying you would provide a link to that part of the...
I would provide a link. I'd say, see page 31
Of CIP.
of the CIP.
People
and the link-
click
and right to it.
and it's all
The
already
title
there.
gets them
Currently under review by the
interested.
Finance Committee and the Public Works. Yeah.
That's how you do it. You're not expressing an opinion.
Yeah.
You're
no,
stating a
no.
fact about paving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How bad is your sidewalk?
Yeah.
Well, it's not on the list.
Then you'll
sorry.
get the fire.
But that's okay. That
Then they
makes it
come beat
look-
up Bruce.
Well, will
Bruce
there be
will love
any
it.
controversy in us putting out news articles? We would then, that's a judgment call. We've seen a news article, it's about our finances, we're putting it on our Facebook page.
I guess that's a good question, and it comes down
That's
to
the one I had questioned.
the disclaimer or the kind of I think you put a disclaimer on it. You say like there are a lot. I think one of the reasons why we should do this really is, frankly, there's a lot less local news coverage than there was 20 years ago, and
Because we're doing so well.
But the news articles are in opinion.
They are an opinion. We could just say the opinions is expressed in this
They're not
newspaper are not our
Right.
opinions.
I guess if we're trying to create appeal, interest, and education into what the town is doing, that might confuse the situation.
Well, I was thinking of, like a lot of times you'll see articles in, say, like a Globe North section where they'll say, communities, a lot of times lately
Well, like
they've
they
been doing
rate
like a
the
theme.
communities.
They've been doing a theme about like, what should we be doing about solid waste disposal or, global warming or rail trails or anything like that. They'll have like a lot of times what the Global do now is they'll have a general theme through all their, now it's down to, north, south, east, and I think it's down to north, south, and west, and metro. and they'll say, like, in these communities, this is what's going on. And so it's not a bad thing to sort of post.
But there are specific things that really are within our realm for educational things. This is an article recently on Andover tax base and how that was viewed from Andover's, and it's like, wow, how do we compare to that? How is it that they? And the article is pretty good about describing, their flexibilities. They're a lot more than we have. So that's an interesting article for educational purposes within our realm.
But not the opinion of the producers or the
owners
of the station.
Something like that.
The following is.
The infomercials.
Yeah.
No, the fairness doctrine. Very good. I remember
Well,
the-
that sounds positive. So, I mean, it sounds like lots of good reason to be putting out different articles, and we'll just put a disclaimer.
But I think now we're at the point where we actually, I like this,
Yeah, it's helpful.
but I also think we need to, oh, by the way, there it is, it's official.
Oh, nice.
My conflict of interest, this is what it looks like.
What is it? Oh, the conflict. Oh, jeez.
Was there a mail sent out about doing that again?
Yes,
There was?
2 years.
Yeah.
Oh, I did it last
I'm
year.
not out of my town of North Andover.
Deadline was yesterday,
So, no, it was today.
or today.
Today.
Oh, really?
So you still have a few hours left. But I move to accept the draft.
Certificate for.
Yeah, I would second.
Yeah, let's put the watermark on it right now.
I didn't.
Conflict of interest.
The North Andover Finance Committee social media policy, less paragraphs 2, 8, and 9.
Was that a motion you just made?
That's a motion.
I second it.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No?
So the question I
Okay.
have for you, Bill, is who's going to reach out to, who's going to do the research on, I mean, you started it. You started it.
No, I didn't. No, I'm buzzkill. I think I will print out the North Andover town and kind of the commentary in the last 60 days so we can understand how other committees have posted on that.
Okay.
I don't think I'm the right person to reach out to the town.
All right, I'll give Andrew.
Unless you want it.
I'll give Andrew a call and just say, like, who's maintaining the
Yeah.
who's the administrator of the page and
Kinda know.
how is it being used, and then I'll just send a factual email about. We won't have any discussion about it, but we can understand
Yes.
what it is when we come back in January. We can.
Just as if we wanted to on yours, could we? And if
Right.
That's-
Yeah, and what's the feasibility and what's the best way to
and
handle
I
it.
will print out.
Bill, I would like your permission just to say a word about the Mass Municipal Association.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Okay. The Mass Municipal Association has its annual meeting in January. It's the end of January, and it costs, I think, about $160 to register. I went last year. It's a 3-day affair. Well, it depends on when you go. I did. There's programming on Friday and Saturday, and there's something happening on Thursday afternoon also. But it's a series of seminars on timely topics by government agency heads. And there are meetings with various politicians. For instance, the Women's Elected Officials Luncheon is going to have our new Attorney General speaking there. It's a time to ask questions or see and be seen, basically, on that one. It's also a time to meet with your legislators, find out what is happening with the latest legislation. For instance, there is a bill by Governor Baker that would streamline the oversight of municipalities. I'm sure that's going to be a topic that's going to be discussed. One of them is one of the streamline measures, which I'm a little surprised at, is having online meeting notices. I think that's going to draw some discussion. The Mass Municipal Association often takes positions that a town may not agree with, our town manager may not agree with, you may not agree with. We're not always 100% with them, It is a lobbying organization, but generally, one of the seminars, if I can do this just quickly.
Yeah, Karen, to get away from
What date?
paper notices?
What?
With the online, no more paper notices?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
one of them. So there are,
You get an email instead? Is that what you're saying?
I think it has to do with, I think one
Trees?
significant cost is, for example, right now, sale of mortgagees real estate. You go to the legal notices section of the local paper, and, it's still
That gets
mandated.
published, yeah.
That
that's
gets
exactly
published.
right. And of course, the newspapers are not particularly happy
This is
with
bankers and
that.
trades information.
That's exactly right. The workshops for this year are, capital planning, buying the big stuff, communities at work, safety regulations for municipal workers, community impacts of cable, broadband, and over-the-top content, preparing for policy and action on Complete Your Streets, critical issues in modern municipal policing. Now, we heard so much about policing over the entire United States. That may be an interesting discussion to hear. Municipal and open meeting law update, understanding the Cadillac tax on our health insurance plans. And let's see, what's the other set on another day? Municipal land use and zoning update. 80 minutes with a highly effective manager. Which manager
Sounds like
that
a
is? Yes, exactly.
I had to take
Economic
that course once.
development opportunities for small towns,
Yeah.
and such. I just give you as a smorgasbord, and you can attend whatever you want to do. And then there, of course, there's dinners and things of that sort. Go online, Mass Municipal Association. Do not go to the, MMA is also martial arts.
Yes, that's right, mixed martial arts.
Mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
Don't go
22nd,
there.
23rd.
And then there are some other really
Yeah.
evil things that are on there. No, I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
And then you can sign up.
Karen, there was an email that came out today with all the notice. I think it got pushed out.
It did.
It did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I registered. I'm going to stay there. I go in and I just stay at the hotel. It's just easier.
Where is it?
It's at the Sheraton Boston, and the activities are held in the Hines. The two are connected, so you do a lot of running back and forth this way. But it's it's good. You don't have to go outside, and you do meet a lot of people. I mean, I spent some time with Diane DiZoglio, and she tells us what she's doing for us, and you can kind of get a sense. By listening to, you can go to the town managers association meeting. There should be an association meeting for there's a FinCom association meeting. I don't see it on the agenda this year. I don't know why. I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
But you just pick up a whole lot.
So we can rely on the tea in January to get in and out of town?
Oh, yeah, okay. So anybody who would like to do that, sorry. The date, duh. The date is January, it's the 22nd and 23rd are the official dates. And that is...
So the kickoff's on Thursday sometime?
Yeah.
Yes, Thursday at
Actually-
noon to 4 is the directors' meeting, and at 3 to 5:45 is a conference registration. And then on the 22nd, the opening session starts at 9:30 in the morning. That's a long opening session, holy moly. And then there is a lunch at noon, so there's kind of like an hour break. Yeah, every session is an hour and a half to 2 hours. Holy.
In that opening session...
It's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday then?
It's really Friday and Saturday.
Friday.
It's really Friday and Saturday
Yeah.
for all
Friday and
intents and
Saturday.
purposes. But we could have some fun if you want to go.
So thrilled with me.
All right, anybody who is going to go, just let me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the registration's 150 and then that's it?
160, that's it. That'll get you to a couple of receptions.
Yeah.
It won't get you to the dinners.
Yeah.
But, basically, unless you're unless you want to do some heavy-duty room working.
Elbowing.
Can
Yeah,
I ask you
right.
a favor? If you do find out that there's a FinCon, can you email us? Would you mind?
No.
And so
Yeah.
that we know, because maybe that'll
Yeah,
incent us even more.
it would be fun. It would really be fun to meet other FinCom members. I was hoping that there would be a meeting, but we'll find out about that.
That sounds good.
Great.
I also,
Thank you.
Yep,
Yeah.
okay, great. I also note that I got a notice, did you get an invitation to the Haverhill Mayor Fiorentini's
Chamber?
holiday party?
Oh,
Holiday music at the Haverhill City Hall, Thursday, December 17, from 12 to 1:30. Haverhill, I'm thinking Haverhill, I'm thinking 125, I'm thinking,
yeah.
okay, I'm just thinking.
Just
Do we have a breakfast coming up this week? Friday.
Yeah,
Anybody making the breakfast?
Well, I think I'm.
Are you talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
This is what it's.
yeah, I think so. Okay, so that's it.
About 9 o'clock?
7:30 to.
They serve
9,
breakfast to
9:30.
employees and
Good timing.
Yeah.
The selectmen serve breakfast.
I haven't been in a couple of years.
You guys all go?
Do we have a motion?
Yeah, I have.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.